Hello and welcome to episode 32 of our Conversation to Connect. Let's Get Real Talk, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm CyndiONeill-Dady. Hello there. I'm the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. At Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative solutions to boost your business. So each week we nominate a different member of our community to have a meaningful conversation with. So be sure to make yourself comfortable with a beverage of your choice and take notes, and be sure to add comments to the chat box, questions to engage us during the conversation. But around the 45-minute mark, I'll unmute the lines and invite our listeners to ask questions, share their ahas, their epiphanies, and enter into our thought-provoking conversation. The inspiration of our bi-weekly Conversations to Connect, Let's Get Real Talks, is to create purposeful conversations. We desire to be relevant during these challenging and uncertain times, and to support our community to make an impact in the world, and of course, stay connected. So as you get started, I invite you to set aside all distractions and invest your attention to the conversation that's about to unfold. Look for just one idea or one takeaway that you can put into action so you don't cheat yourself out of the time you've invested here. Our Conversation to Connect this week is with the amazing Summer Sorenson from Vancouver, Washington. Hello, Summer.
Hey, Cyndi.
So glad you could join us.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here.
Well, we're excited to be able to talk about your topic, creating content that converts 5 C's of content creation. So before we get going, it's my pleasure to just give you a little update on Summer and what her happenings and what she's been up to. So Summer Sorenson is a copyright and social media manager who helps her clients create marketing content that is true to their brand and resonates with their ideal client. She loves giving busy business owners some time back in their day, knowing they don't need to worry about their marketing content. Their clients rest assured that the work she does for them includes holistic strategy informed by 17 years of marketing experience. Her goal is to help her clients achieve their goals. She has been married to her husband, Mike, for 10 years, and when not working, she enjoys blogging, reading, staying active in the great outdoors. She's also always looking for the next opportunity to go hiking, camping, swimming, and cycling. So you're an outdoor girl.
That's right.
I love it. This is your time of year, right?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
So the bucket list items that she's accomplished, including skydiving. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I would want that one on my list. Completing 2 triathlons and traveling to Australia and New Zealand. So this is a busy girl here, likes to be adventurous. Future bucket list items include hand gliding and visiting the Mediterranean. I'll go to the Mediterranean with you.
Sounds good. I'm free next week. Actually, no, we have to do it July, but.
Okay, well, we'll work it. We'll figure it out.
Right.
So before we get going, Summer, I think it's important for you to give us a little bit more about your journey, because you're just an adventurous gal, and I really appreciate the expertise that you bring to this conversation of 17 years of marketing. So give us a little bit more insight before we get going.
Oh, for sure. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on. It's a pleasure. And just, you mentioned the 17 years of marketing. And so my career trajectory it's been fascinating to me. I started out in the radio industry, and I wanted to be a syndicated radio star. And then through a series of realizations, I discovered that it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And so after a couple of years in the radio industry, I pivoted into marketing, and I've been doing marketing since the early part of this millennium. I'll just put it that way. And my first love is writing. I've always loved to write ever since I was a little kid. And then when social media kind of came into the picture around 2007, 2006, roughly, I started doing that as part of the marketing jobs I was doing. And so social media marketing became my second love. And it just resonates with my personality because it's a way to communicate with people but it's also very introvert friendly to chat with people online. That sounds really terrible, but it's relevant because I've been doing social media marketing since the early days. And so combining that with my passion for writing content and all these years of marketing gives me a kind of a unique perspective to create content for my clients. So because I've been doing it so long, and along the way I've done a lot of trial and error, gone to a lot of conferences. I'm always trying to keep sharp on the latest trends in social media and copywriting, and so all that kind of snowballed together into a realization here a handful of years ago that I wanted to take all my knowledge and help business owners with their marketing, but doing so as my own boss. And so I started my company helping with marketing content for small business owners about 2.5 years ago, and I've loved it. I never looked back since I started. It's been fantastic. So I love helping business owners navigate the tricky waters of creating content for their business. So
Right. Well, shout out for summertime communications, right?
yeah, I like to.
So exciting. Well, I love the way, thank you for taking the time to kind of just share with us your, your journey, and then also the ingredients that have been gathered over the years to create the platform for you to be of service to others. And I think it's really important before we get going to mention, you mentioned you're an introvert, and I think it's important for us to be aware of like who we are, it's not right or wrong, so that we can know how to navigate and then how to help others as well. So, social media, and in some ways you think it's for people that, want to get out there and stuff, but as an introvert, you feel safe, right? It's a platform where you feel safe being able to help others and engage with, help your clients engage, and for yourself as well. So that's awesome. Thank you for that update. All right. So creating content that converts, 5 C's of content creation. So give us an overview of your 5 C's before we get going here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Just so you have kind of the bird's eye view. So the 5 C's as they stand out, at kind of the outline is contextual, which means in this case, centered on what your audience cares about. So that's your content should be that. It should be concise, which is a challenge. We'll get into that later. It should be conversational. It should be consistent. You need to be out there in front of your audience consistently. And then it should be call to action oriented. Give your audience a chance to take action. So those are the 5 C's, kind of the bird's eye view of the points.
Yes, and I love that they're all C's, so it's easy to remember. They're short and sweet. And so these are great to put on a 3x5 card or whatever and have on your, desk for social media, kind of top of mind things to keep you directed and not, what do they call a squirrel? not going to squirrel mode here. So take us to contextual. So, talking about what's important to your audience is so important, right? You want to be, timely, but you also want to, set a context for the conversation that you're going to enter into and attract others.
Exactly. Oh, and I forgot to mention in the overview, just kind of a little background information, because I love my alliteration, creating content that converts, the 5 C's.
Yes.
So converts, what does it mean to convert, right? That's an important point to kind of uncover. And really convert means you get the audience to take whatever action it is that you want them to take. So that could be whatever, it could be a number of different things. Maybe you want them to click on a link. Maybe you want them to sign up for a call with you. Maybe you just want them to comment on your post or subscribe to your blog. Whatever it is that action that you want your audience to take, that's a conversion. So, and when we think of the 5 C's, these are the things that will help you get to that point where your audience is doing the action that you want them to take. So now just jumping right in, as you mentioned, to the contextual. As someone trying to speak to your audience about your business, you want to make the context relevant to your business, first of all, and that's really the bread and butter of this point of the contextual sitting relevant to what your brand has to say and what your audience cares about. Now, they're your audience because they care about what you have to say on some level. And so let's keep it relevant. And so just an example is kind of a what not to do example, I guess, is if you're a dentist office promoting your service and a couple times a week you write a post about baseball, like because you're passionate about baseball, like, okay, well, that's a little weird because I wouldn't expect to hear baseball talk from my dentist. I would expect to hear like 5 ways to make flossing easier, or tricks you can do if you don't have time to floss, or content that's relevant to the field of dentistry and oral health. Now, because I like to make things fun, one way that you could, if you really want to talk about baseball and you see an article about a fly ball at a game that hit someone in the face, you could talk about, hey, by the way, this happened. Let's, did you know we do crowns? So talk about, ways to tie in cultural events to make them relevant to your content if you really want to bring in extra topics.
Right.
So centered on what your audience cares about in a way that adds value to them, information that they would find useful. So that's kind of this the meat behind that point of the
Right. I love your example because I think it's important that, in social media, especially that, people are establishing their credibility and their expertise. And I think it's important for you to be authentic and build rapport and let people know what you're up to, because then you can connect with people who have somebody that, keep your baseball analogy, who likes baseball. But I think it's really brilliant how you bring that full circle. And it's like, okay, my passion is baseball. I'm a dentist. Why not use different things that you can pull into it so it doesn't feel as salesy too, right?
Exactly.
So, you've got this personal part where people get to know you a little bit, like, oh, I didn't know he liked baseball. And at the same time, make it fun. So I think that's really brilliant. Contextual is a very important piece, of the principles of content creation. And I think that's a great one to lead with. Um, so, um, so how do you know what your audience cares about? That's a question that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking.
Right. That's a great question. And the answer is, I mean, there's a number of different ways you can answer it, but basically, if you're providing valuable information, that's a good start. But really, what I suggest to all my clients is that you have to kind of try a lot of different things and see what gets traction with people. Um, the things that get comments, the things that get likes or reactions, the things that trigger those actions. Like you can look at your stats on your social media, for example, or your open rates on your emails, and you can see what resonated with people. And so I always think it's a good idea to try different things. Try sharing articles, try doing like, here's a behind the scenes look at a day in the office, or here's a staff highlight, or here's our favorite customer of the month, or different things like that, and see and make notes and adjust. I think that's really one of the best ways to determine what your audience cares about.
Well, because everybody's audience is different too, right? So it's not cut and dry, do this, do this, do this. And I love that you're saying you really need to be aware again and pay attention to what your audience responds to. And that changes too, because look what's happened in the last year, right?
Oh, for sure.
You have to, that's part of the context. The context is what's going on in the world, what's going on in our community, how are people feeling, and being sensitive to that. So, not being in a bubble, being able to be aware of what's going on in the world and respond accordingly. And also, taking the temperature of your audience and finding out what they're responding to at that time. So those are really great examples. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, all right. So I found that it's really important to be careful with our, I'm going to say languaging, I don't know if that's an official word or not, but I use it all the time.
It's okay.
um, as opposed to being like too verbose. So point number two kind of is going to help us clarify that, hopefully, right?
I hope so. Number two in the 5 C's is concise. You want your content to be concise. Um, and this one is painful for me as a writer. Like when I sit down
You do.
and I start to write, it's like just the floodgates of my heart and mind open up and the words flow. And so that's great for my personal writing, but it's not so great for my clients. And
Mm,
so people have short attention spans. They need to be told the point immediately. They need to, and then they can decide if they want to keep reading or if they're just going to scroll. And so keeping it concise is important. You've heard the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Well, I will tell you that and raise you this: KISS, keep it short and simple. Really, I
mhm.
mean, maybe I hate to say dumb down, but short and simple. So in digestible bites, so that people can again decide if they want to engage with that content. And I had actually an example that reminded me that I could even do better at this is I wrote a post for a client for a social media post that they wanted me to write this specific post, and I saw that she took what I wrote and condensed it down greatly to like more concise bullet points. I'm like, okay, I need to do a better job editing that stuff. So even as a writer, I struggle with this. So it's not necessarily easy, but it's something that we have to train ourselves to do. Is how can I make the points in as few words as possible to keep people interested? So that's concise in a semi nutshell.
Right. That's a challenge for me too. I'm an former English major, and I like words. Words and I are friends.
Yes, words with friends.
Yes, but not everybody has the time to read or the attention span, like you said. And so I do have a question for you. So when you're writing a post and you have a lot of information to provide, the first thing you want to do is capture people's attention, right? So that first
Definitely.
sentence or paragraph or whatever is critical.
It is. It is. So drawing people in with a hook, asking a question, making it brief so that you're not going to get everyone to stop and read your post. That's just a fact. But you can do it you can maximize by being concise and hooking people in up front.
Right. So that's an awesome point, and thank you for that. I'm gonna keep that top of mind myself, because I err on wanting to provide people like one-stop shopping, all the information they need.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes. Me
and
as well.
that works, but it doesn't work, because if you don't have time, people are gonna, just miss it all together. And so I think, what I've seen done that I want to aspire to is have the information on the back end once you hook them, as you say. So they can find out the time and when and the link and all that. And that's lower in the article or the post. Um, so thank you. That's good reminder for me. So
Yeah, you bet.
what do you think, okay, we're going on to number three now. Drum roll, right? Um, so number three is all about being conversational. So what are good ways to interact with our audience?
That's a really great question. And kind of the mindset behind that is there really in marketing, there's been a shift in the last however many 10 years, maybe 15 years, to where brands are expected to be personal in the social media era, kind of changing marketing, making mass marketing on the decline, and relational marketing is the thing now. And so that applies to those of us who run small businesses as well as to the Amazons and to the Domino's pizzas, because people don't want to be sold a product. They want to engage in a relationship and a conversation. And so if you have that mindset when you're doing your marketing, you're gonna get people, you're gonna get a warmer reception. And I just rambled and I totally forgot what your question was. I'm sorry, Cyndi, what was your question again?
No. I was just leading, we were just going to the next point of conversational, which is you did that perfectly. You were, but I know that when you and I talked about this earlier, you really struck a chord with me. And this is very pertinent to the times we live in right now of, we're all relational beings. And if we didn't know that before COVID, we know it now. We know how much we need each other. And we want to be in relationship with others, not sold to, like you mentioned. So, interacting with each other in a way that builds relationship instead of people feeling like they have a target on their back, or, nobody wants to be sold to, right?
Exactly. I mean, maybe there might be 4 people in Zimbabwe that want to be sold to, but that's probably it.
Well, here's the thing. When somebody, because I'm a relationship marketing strategist, I've been doing this for 15 years. So I know that there's low hanging fruit. There's people who want my product and they've been looking for me. And when I meet them, they're like, yes, let's do it. And then the other people that like, that's interesting. I want to know more. And they really want to get to know me. And it's like, are you going to be there for me when I have a question? Or are you just going to sign me up and leave me? So, they want to build a relationship with somebody that they trust, know, like, and trust. So the conversational piece is important because that's where you're really letting people know that you care about them, not just the sale.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And I would just add that, if that seems like a daunting task, it really is as simple as when you sit down to write an email or social media post, is like you're not like trying to broadcast to everybody. You're trying to say this, it's not one to many, it's one to one. Like if you're sitting down with your friend Anne to have coffee, how would you engage her? Use that mindset when you're writing your content, because you're really talking to Anne. You're not talking to everyone on your list.
Yes, that is so true. So true. And I find that people don't realize that even when they're doing like with exceptional connections, we have people do their spotlight commercials to let people know what they're up to, what they're doing. And one of my, I guess I'll call it a pet peeve, is when people in any business, and I'll use an example of a hairdresser, they share, anyone with hair is my, potential client. Well, when I hear that, it's true, right? It's true. But when I hear that, I think of nobody, like nobody comes to mind. But if they had said, obviously everybody with hair is their client, but if they said, anybody with curly hair, right? Then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Summer and Amanda, and people come to mind, or anybody who likes to color their hair, or anybody who has gray hair and wants to cover it. So I think it's important to be more specific, and then you're casting your net for somebody in a way that people can identify with people, and then be a contribution by being a referral partner, or say, hey, that's me. I've got curly hair. Don't you think that that's a better way to cast your net than going for everybody and catching nobody?
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's repeated in every current marketing book I've read is be specific. You don't need to capture everybody. It's useless. It's a waste of time. You want to capture the specific person you're looking for. So speak to
Yeah.
that specific person.
Yes. Awesome. So anything else on your conversational piece that you want to share about before we move on?
I would say, I mean, just a word of caution. It's easy to take it to the extreme and be too informal, which is, just you got to use your best judgment on that. Be conversational, but not too informal, unless the situation calls for it.
Right. And that's a good point, because we're talking social media. That's the platform. So we're not talking, a one-on-one conversation with somebody where you can read their facial expressions and see how they, their tone and how they react, right? It's still, you're building a relationship. So being respectful and careful is important. But keeping it from a context of wanting to engage with people as opposed to wanting to, I guess that keeps coming to mind for me. Am I off base here? Just, you know, building relationship versus forcing the sale. Is that fair to say that in a
No, that's
simple way?
perfect. I love it.
Okay.
Good,
Awesome.
good.
All right. So for number 4 now, kind of just to warm up for that one, how often should we get in front of our audience?
Yes, a great question. And I'm not going to, it's, well, it's not a trick question, but the answer is, and this into the 4th C, so thank you for that lead in, Cyndi, is consistency. Be consistent. So how often? Well, that depends. Is once a month enough to post on social media? Absolutely not. Is 3 times a day too much? Maybe. It depends. So you want to, one of the underlying principles of marketing is you want to, when the person that you want to acquire as a customer is looking for what you have to offer, you want to be top of mind. You want them to have you in their mind. And so if you send out a newsletter twice a year or post on social media quarterly, they might not remember you. So just find a rhythm that works and stick with it and be consistent. And that way, people will see you. It's a complicated, difficult to map customer journey of where someone would see you and then buy. It's not, A to B, but if, for example, if I'm looking to get qualified to buy a house and I see mortgage guy post on Facebook once or twice, and then I think about it for a couple of months and I see him again when I'm actually ready to do it, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I remember him. Let me see what he's up to. Let me see if I can get a meeting with him. So the idea is just do it consistently so that you're giving your audience a chance, you're giving your potential customers a chance of remembering you when it comes time to use your services. So that's really the basis for
No, that's so true. And what I hear you saying is you're really kind of building credibility because it's all about them, not you. It's when they're ready to buy, not when you're ready to sell.
Exactly.
And so what I think about is in terms of building credibility is like, a realtor. They don't sell homes there, people don't buy homes every day, every week, every month, maybe every couple of years, right? So you've got to keep in front of them in between the sale of their last home and their next potential home if you want to keep them as a customer. And so there's that factor of just keeping that top of mind awareness, like you mentioned. There's credibility for people you don't know and are watching you to see, did they follow through, and what kind of results do they get for others. So I love that piece because I think it's so important. I'm a big proponent for being consistent, and if nothing else, I think that consistency trumps like super intelligence. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
Just showing up, continuing to show up, and be that stable force that's out there and is consistently offering value and information and being of service to others.
Precisely. Exactly. You want the most reliable person, and consistency speaks to reliability also. It's better to have someone you can count on than someone who's like the flashiest presentation, in my opinion.
Yes, I love that. I'm going to write that down because I think that's so true. That's a really critical component to this. Okay, so let's see. We've gone through contextual, right? And
Yes.
then being concise, being conversational, being consistent. And so you've set the stage with the 4 important, top principles of content creation. Bring us home, Summer. What's the 5th piece that ties it all together here?
Yes, thank you, Cyndi. And so really we're talking about, content that converts, right? So the piece that brings it all together is call to action oriented. And so yes, we want to build relationships. Yes, we want to offer value. But at the end of the day, we all need to pay our mortgage. We all need to put food on the table. So we do need to make some kind of sale, right? And so if you're going to the effort to put content out into the universe, whether it's email or social media or, website content, whatever it is, blogs, you want to give people the opportunity to take action. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste. Now, obviously, I say that, and there's some times where there's exceptions for that. Give people an opportunity. If you want them to take an action, tag your content at the end with, hey, let's set up a no obligation consultation. Here's my scheduling link, or whatever the case might be. Click on through to see our latest YouTube video to see how you can qualify for a mortgage, or something like that. Give people an opportunity to take action so that you're going to see those conversions kind of trickle in more than they would if you didn't do that. So that's
Right.
kind of call to action oriented in a nutshell. Decide what that conversion is that you want and work it into the conversation.
Well, essentially, it's an invitation.
Yes.
You're making an invitation. And if people can choose to accept that invitation at that time, like, yes, I need that now, or not now, but it's nice to know that when I am ready, summer's available and I can go and, learn more. So as I never really thought about it that way, but to me, that's kind of the shorthand for you're offering an invitation. If someone comes to your house, invite them in. People don't usually just walk in your house. They come to the door and they wait for the invitation, right? So I think that's true, in how we operate on a physical basis when we're connecting with somebody. But also I think it's an important reminder for us with social media. Just because we have a post, we don't want to take it for granted that people know that they're invited. We want to let them know. We want them to take advantage of the services we offer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really nice way to frame it. And also, keeping in mind that, you want to help people, you want to build relationships, you're trying to offer value. And so if you know that what you're offering is valuable, show that value, give them a chance to take action on that value.
Right. Beautiful. So, okay. So now we've kind of gone through those 5 C's, but you are such a wealth of information. We got a little bit more time here. So give us some other examples. I know you gave us one with the dentist, but share with us if you have any other examples of what not to do in your experience. What have you, seen people do that you want to give people on this that are here with us live or listening to the replay the benefit of your experience on what not to do when creating content?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, kind of the opposite of being concise is, well, I don't have a fancy C term for it, but I call it the word vomit, where you just start typing and then just hit send without checking it. Like, well, that doesn't usually yield optimum results. Think about it, see if you can omit anything, make things more concisely worded. Are there some details that really aren't relevant, that don't support your point? So, and essentially, and to simmer that down to a word, it'd be edit your work. Kind of like I was talking about how I wrote a very wordy, I thought it was a great post for one of my clients, and then she reshared it and trimmed down my wording a lot. I'm like, okay, I could have said that same thing in a lot fewer words. Noted. So don't do the word vomit. Edit your stuff before you hit publish. Maybe even have someone else take a look at it, see if it makes sense, because you might be so lost in the weeds of what you're trying to say, you forgot to have an opening line, that there's no hook, that it might not be obvious to someone that what the context is that you're talking about. So edit, have someone proofread, what have you. Those are,
Yeah.
I guess that's an example of what to do, but
I have a C for you for that.
what is it?
Carefully edit content.
Oh, 2 C's. Nice.
So you can have, yeah, that's a good reminder. Carefully edit content. And then mix it up too, right? Mix it up so you can have an offer and then maybe, something to ponder, a quote, mix up what you're doing. So which is something, a good reminder to me, because I sometimes get so focused on the next event and promoting things that it's good to pepper in there different other, being a contribution to your community in different other ways.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Cyndi. And that's something that I tell my clients too, is like you said, mix it up. Don't always be sale. I mean, this might seem like a contradiction to call to action oriented, but it really isn't. It's part of the cohesive conversational marketing strategy. Don't always be selling, offer value. Like you said, offer a quote, offer an article that might be of interest or of value to your audience. I mentioned before, I like to have fun with marketing. And so for several of my clients, I do Friday funny posts where every Friday we have a meme or something that's relevant to their audience, but it's just kind of a funny joke to get their audience laughing. And I find that many times those posts perform better than sales-oriented posts, which is interesting commentary, but people want to be entertained. They want something funny. So mix something in like that into your content schedule. That's my counsel anyway. So people don't automatically tune you out because they know that you're just trying to promote the next thing.
Yes, that's good. That's really great advice. I love the word too, edutain, because you're educating them and you're entertaining them, right? And so I also love how observant you are, how you pay attention. That's going to be my biggest takeaway from this conversation today, is just to remember to really pay attention to what people are doing or not doing, how they're responding. And, and when they're responding to something, like, give them more of it, because they're asking for it. They're telling you, I like this. That's the whole idea of the, little hearts and likes and all that kind of stuff. And the emojis, they're expressing their, how they're feeling about it. So those are good examples. Thank you for that. So what are some pushbacks that you've heard from people about, these ideas that you're sharing? Have you had any pushbacks on, the different 5C principles that you've offered?
Well, kind of organically, I have heard, and this kind of ties into your last question and what you just asked, is a lot of times people are in a hurry to make the sale, which is understandable. You're investing in marketing, and so you want to get some return on it immediately. And I understand that. But in that rush to see a return immediately, so people will say, well, we need to put a link to the event in every post. We need to ask for a sale in every post because, we need to drive these sales. I'm like, that's true. But we also need to, as we just discussed, we need to mix it up a little bit, offer some value, offer some fun, offer some, what is it? What do you say? Edutainment?
Edutain them.
So it's a process. And if you want to develop a relationship with your customers to where they value your input and they come back over and over again, which is really what we should all want, provide that value. don't rush the sale. You know, if you're looking for a quick sale, there's ways to do that. And usually it involves putting some money behind it, an ad, an online ad. If you want to just, you know, start ringing the cash register. But the goal should be a little bit more holistic, develop those relationships. And so it's kind of a delicate balance that I work out with my clients. That's probably the biggest one that I would say.
I love that, because I think it's really important to, you know, so your premise is to your highest value you offer your clients and that you follow is developing a relationship, a genuine relationship with your customers, right? And I love the, you know, you kind of putting it in the context of a process, because processes don't happen overnight. They take time. That's the critical, like the, you know, ingredient there is time. And so giving relationships time to marinate, percolate, build trust, build rapport is so important. That's so near and dear to my heart as well. Um, but at the same time, you know, there are people, like we talked about the low hanging fruit, that are ready to buy, right? And so those are the people that you're there for them, letting them know you want to be of service to them. And then the other people just building that relationship in the background. And a lot of times when people go to networking events or whatnot, this is my soapbox, they're like, I didn't make a sale. I didn't, you know, nobody took me up on my services. And it's like, you're here for the long run. This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? You're here to let people know what you do, who you are, you know, how you can be of service to them. They're getting to know you, and you need to let them have an opportunity to do that. And I've learned too, you can scare people away,
Yes, you can very
right?
easily.
Yeah, and you can scare them away by being too desperate, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all heard that. Desperate, you know, people can smell desperation a mile away. When you're desperate for the sale, people are like, I don't know.
Right.
And, you know, and also if you're too aggressive, because people are like, you know, they don't want to be sold to, like we talked about earlier. So I love your 5 C's, because it really, I'm going to, you know, literally put them on a little card and remind me when I'm doing my posts, you know, okay, be concise, Cyndi, be consistent, you know, find that happy medium that works for you and your audience. That's my takeaway from my chat with you today, right?
I think that's great. If you can find a way to do that, and again, like you said, it's a process. So you're not, yeah, see what works, see what people are engaging with, and then adjust accordingly, for sure.
Nice, nice. Yes, that's going to be great. I appreciate that. Um, so how have you seen the 5 C's work in your experience? Do you have anything to, as we come to a close here, we're just gonna get ready to open the lines for any questions. So how have you seen it work most effectively? What is your, like a success story, or, you know, what prompted you to have this epiphany that, you know, with the alliteration of the 5 C's and also the gentle reminders to yourself and others?
That's a really good question. And my favorite example of that, honestly, is so I, well, okay, I'll just be candid. I struggle with consistency in my posting for my business because, you know, I'm busy creating that content for my clients. And so my consistency suffers a little bit. But when I get into a groove where I'm posting, for example, on LinkedIn and my Facebook business page regularly, an item of fruit of that consistency was I got into a groove where I was posting on LinkedIn once a week. You know, the algorithms in LinkedIn last a little longer than Facebook, so people are apt to see your posts, you know, for several days after you published it. That's just a little extra nugget. So I started posting on LinkedIn regularly, and I had someone send me a LinkedIn request, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know who this person is, but that's great. Sure, sounds great. And then she found my email and emailed me and said, hey, I really like what you've been posting on LinkedIn. would you be interested in writing regular emails to send out to our newsletter? And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? That's amazing. Just because I'm just sharing my story on LinkedIn about what I'm up to in my business and sharing photos and making it contextual about the struggles that I have in my business, I got a client out of it. And I was just dumbfounded, but I shouldn't be, because I'm practicing what I preach and it works. So
I love that. That's a beautiful story and an encouragement to all of us to get out there and just, be consistent, be concise, speak to the audience that you're wanting to attract, right? Be contextual. And then, engage in a conversational way that people will actually want to work with you. What a concept.
easy.
That's funny. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open it up here. So if there's any questions or you want to share an epiphany or an aha, feel free to unmute yourself, and you have an opportunity to get your questions answered with Summer.
Okay. May I ask a question?
Absolutely. Go for it, Jack.
So my big thing here is, in listening to what you have to say, is I really like your content. I really agree with it all. It's really good. So here's my dilemma when I think about these things, is that, so how, you see all these people on Facebook and all over the place, and they say, the reason why you're not a millionaire is you don't use me. And you got some guy sitting on a boat, or you got some guy sitting in an airplane, and he's like, hey, you need to use me, and in 90 days I can make you a millionaire, and so this seems to get people's attention. So when I look at that, I say, well, that doesn't look like it's very genuine to me, but it attracts attention. So how do you go about deciding what content will be the hook, and what content, like for me, I tend to be factual, so I tend to be boring. So how do you do this without becoming boring?
Oh, that's a really good question, Chuck. And I will give you in kind of a secret pearl of, well, I guess I'll let you decide if it's a pearl of wisdom, but a way to come up with content that engages your audience, that's not boring, is really to just think about, just dial in, what problem do I solve for my customers? What problem do I solve for my customers? How does my service solve that problem? And then write your content from that perspective. And what is it that you do for your company, Chuck?
I have my own small business consulting company. I help small business owners create structure and business, help them get over the hurdles, help them get over the psychological barriers to becoming one, like how to become a successful entrepreneur, so to speak. And I love
man, that is a wealth of content, because there's so many problems that are kind of tied up into that. As if you're just starting a business, if you had recently started a business, or you're at my phase where you're in year 2 and you're really starting to see some growth, and it's like, oh, now what do I do? How do I handle all this? There's a lot of different mindset problems that go along with every stage of entrepreneurship. And so if you can dial in what those problems are and kind of push that out, like, are you new entrepreneur, are you feeling overwhelmed because X, because Y, because Z? Well, I have a strategy that will help you to sort that out. I'd love to chat with you, have a no obligation consultation. Like, let's get that figured out for you. And just let them keep that tension in front of them. These are the problems you're having. People know, well, sometimes they're consciously aware of it, sometimes they're subconsciously aware. So if they see like their problem put in front of them, and then you're the solution to that problem, that's a really way to keep it fresh and and really hook people in that you want to attract, the people that have the problem that you solve.
Mhm.
Is that helpful at all?
Yeah, yeah. So you do that from more of a uh, emotional standpoint or a passionate standpoint? Is that how you to put the energy into it so you're not boring?
I would say, yeah. And you want to engage people's emotions because we all like to think of ourselves as rational beings that make decisions rationally, but that's not really true. We make decisions emotionally and then we justify them rationally. And so if you can lead with the emotion, lead with the struggle that your potential clients are having, and then follow up with how you solve that problem, that's, I think, is a good solution. And you don't want to be manipulative like the guy with a picture of himself on the yacht, like it's gonna be you in 90 days. Like, as you said, that's disingenuous. It's probably not even true. So you don't want to make false claims, but you do want people to feel their problem deeply and then know that you are the solution for it.
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
It is a good question because it's something we all, struggle with and wanting in that continuum of wanting to be genuine, but at the same time, keeping that relationship and consistency and being an advocate for yourself, right? I love that. That's really
Definitely.
great. Dial into the mindset challenges of each stage of your business. I think that is brilliant.
Yeah, that's good.
Great advice, Summer.
And
Uh,
oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I was just going to say, Chuck, just one more point is, in terms of, thinking of batching out content, you can do like outline, here's like a profile of my ideal client. Here's the problems I have at this stage. Here's the problems I have at this stage. And then how do I solve it here? How do I solve it here? And if you outline that, then you all of a sudden have a wealth of ideas of things you can talk about instead of just racking your brain every single time you need to do a Facebook post.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank
Sounds
you.
like a great strategy.
I think it works. But I'd be interested to follow up with you and see what you think if you give that a try, Chuck. But you started to say something, Cyndi, before I butted in, so go ahead.
Oh, no. I think I was just kind of reiterating what you guys were already saying and agreeing that the approach that you're offering, Chuck, is a good one in terms of, because I have that same challenge. We all have, I think, a lot of information as entrepreneurs, business owners, a lot of things that we can be of value to our customers. And what the epiphany I've had in recent years is that things that I think are like, oh, nobody thinks that's a big deal. Another person is like, oh my gosh, I need that. And for whatever reason, because it comes easily to me, because it's something I've been exposed to for years, because it's something I've already worked through, I don't see the value in it. And so I think to batch things down and break it down into different component parts so that people can relate to it where they're at and you can show your expertise, I think is really important.
It is, yeah, showing your expertise with a heart to provide value to the people that you're trying to serve.
Yes. Yeah, that's really good. You are a wordsmith. I love it. And Chuck, I just want to, I think Chuck has been very vulnerable in saying, he doesn't want to be boring. Well, you are not boring. You are an amazing writer, Chuck.
Oh.
But I think that Chuck is a good example that how many people feel that way? How many feel like I have nothing to offer? I'm boring. But yet you're just such a wealth of information, and it's just a matter of being able to articulate it to the right audience, like we were saying, not broadcast it to everyone, but put it out there, and the right person who needs to hear your message at the right time is going to come forward.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. And it's the process too. Like we also talked about putting it out there and it'll into the universe consistently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, again, time comes to mind is just the critical factor that, we all need to give things time to marinate, time to germinate, time to, I'm a gardener. And so the gardening analogies to me are really powerful. We plant seeds and we water them, we give them, the sun, the nutrients that they need, everything that they need, but they're not going to grow into a tomato plant overnight. It takes time. You have to give them the gift of time, and we have to give our relationships the gift of time and our marketing the gift of time. So great insights today, Summer. Thank you so much. So for those who want to connect with you, get to know you more, take advantages of your services, what is the best way for people to connect with you?
I would say I'm always open to meeting new people on LinkedIn. It's a great platform to have those business conversations and to share value on what we can offer each other in terms of our services. And so I'm actively expanding my LinkedIn network. So I'm just it's linkedin.com/Summer Sorenson is my handle. Pretty straightforward. So
Beautiful.
love connection requests.
All right. And I'll have in the description the link as well. And for those who are interested in connecting with Summer and being able to take advantage of her wealth of information and insights. So Summer, in closing, share some thoughts with us to kind of wrap a bow around this conversation today and your 5 C's.
Okay, I can do that. So, just in case anyone is drooling on themselves and fell asleep at home, the 5 C's, contextual, centered on what your audience cares about, concise, conversational, consistent, and call to action oriented. And so kind of my parting thoughts would be, if you keep these principles in mind on a 3x5 card or what have you, you're going to get closer to the mark with your content. You're going to start to see that those conversions will happen if you do these things over time. And we're, again, kind of circling back to what we talked about. So we're all relational beings. We want to be in a relationship. We don't want to be sold to. And so take that principle in mind when you're creating content. You're talking to one person, you're talking to your ideal client, you're looking to solve a problem for them, and you're looking to offer value. And that is really the mindset to go for. The quick sale is good, and sometimes that'll happen, like you said, the low-hanging fruits. But think of it as a long-term nurturing relationships and providing value, and the sales will come if you are if you apply all those 5 C's. I won't say them again, but so those are kind of, I guess, the main takeaways that I would say for these things.
Yes, and those are brilliant and beautiful, and thank you for bringing us home. So for those of you who are listening live, thanks for joining us. For those who are listening to the replay, hope you enjoyed this episode of Conversations to Connect, Let's Get Real. We host these on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of the month, and look forward to having you join us and taking advantage of other episodes that we have produced. And also we host the 2nd Tuesday of every month, Exceptional Connections Networking events. And we've been since March of 2020, hosting them virtually and combining our Exceptional Connections Seattle area, Greater Seattle area, and Vancouver chapters. Look forward to the happy day we can host events live. But thank you so much, Summer, for being a part of our community, our virtual community, and eventually in the Vancouver region with our chapter connector, Amanda Goff. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Cyndi. Bye, Chuck.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.